Hi, thanks for joining me for another My Little Pretty Crafts video. This is Jennifer and I'm here with another segment of our Petal Potpourri stamp set series where we're going to show you lots of different ways to use this particular stamp set. Today we've got a really pretty Blackberry Bliss thank you card, so let's head on over to the stamp table and get started. Before we do though, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a video. Thanks! So here's our card for today. A really lovely, I think elegant thank you card featuring the Petal Potpourri stamp set. This is from the new Occasions catalog, and I have two other videos that show different ways to use this stamp set, so hopefully you'll be able to stretch your stamps and find lots of different applications for this really pretty and versatile stamp set. So for this card, we're going to be using a note card sized card base in Blackberry Bliss. This is folded down. It's 3.5 by 5 and will fit in our note card envelopes. So I just scored that and folded it, and that's ready to go. I've also cut two rectangular mats. These have a little bit of a stitched detail. It's from the Mama Elephant Femme Frame set. And so we're going to use one to do our stamping. Now we're going to be doing some first and second generation stamping, which means that we're going to be inking up our stamp, stamping on our project, and then stamping again to get a little bit of a lighter color variation. I'm sorry about the shadows that I've got here. It's really dark right now outside, and so I'm using some artificial light, so hopefully it's not too distracting. So we'll ink up our stamp here. And stamp on the background. I like to kind of go off the edge a bit, and then we'll do another impression right away, and that will give us our lighter color. Looks like we got a little bit of the dark there. That's okay with me. Ink it up again. And again, stamping, we don't want to leave too much white space for this particular card. And see, there's that really nice lighter colored of the Blackberry Bliss, lighter shade. Ink up again. And when you're doing this and you're stamping off, because there's a little bit of a difference in height between the cardstock and the paper I'm stamping off onto, you'll see that it leaves a little bit of that dark area where the ink didn't go anywhere. So we just want to be careful about that. That's why we're getting a little bit of that color variation. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I think I'd like to do one more little lighter piece right down here. So I'll just stamp off on the paper so that I don't have to worry about that little dark place. There we go. And I think that looks pretty good. So we're done with our stamping. And we can set this panel aside for now. Now we're going to be moving on to the sentiment, and for this we're going to be using a photopolymer set that I personally really love. I got it when it first came out, but now it is in the catalog, and it is this another thank you set. It's on page 148, and I use this all the time. I love this really large image, but today we're going to be using this smaller one right here in this beautiful font. So to prep my little cardstock strip, this is just a strip of Blackberry Bliss, and it's cut to about 3/4 inches by 4 7/8, but we're going to be trimming it down a bit. I'm going to use a powder tool. You can use an embossing buddy, or this is the EK Success powder tool. I actually prefer the embossing buddy because this has a little bit of a scent to the powder, and I don't really like that, but I do like the brush tip. And now we're going to ink up our stamp that's already mounted on my block in Versamark ink. This is a nice sticky ink, perfect for embossing. And we will just line it up. I want it, the finished card, it's sort of in the middle of the card, so I want to leave myself a little bit of room. I'll just stamp this down. Looks like I was a little crooked, so I might end up trimming that panel down. And we'll bring in some white embossing powder. I keep mine in this sandwich container. It makes it really easy to just apply the powder and not have it go absolutely everywhere. There you go. And if there are any little stray flecks, you can use a dry paintbrush just to brush those away before you heat set it. But the powder tool does a pretty good job of minimizing that for you. Okay. So now we'll bring in the heat tool. I like to let mine heat up for just a second before applying to my project. And you'll want to heat that just until the embossing powder has melted and you can see really, really nice detail there. So now I can bring in my card base and my panel. And at this point, I think I will go ahead and adhere the panel to my card. We'll go ahead and adhere this down. The only thing about using a dry adhesive is that you don't get a ton of the wiggle room that you might with a Tombow, but it's really up to you. You can use whatever works for you. And then I have a little bit of that stray powder there. I'm just gonna wipe that off. You could also use a tissue or even like a Swiffer cloth would take that right off. And I'm just going to arrange my sentiment wherever I think it looks best. And I'm going to trim it off right about there. Looks pretty good. And then I'm going to do just a little bit of a flagged end here. You could use a square punch for this, just as easy. I like to just cut up the middle and then cut in on either side. Let's see. Great. So now I'll go ahead and adhere this down. I usually like to leave the flagged ends of my sentiments that I do this way not adhere to the card, just to kind of give it a little bit of interest, a little bit of movement. And I think for this I will use some Tombow just because I want to have some of that wiggle room. Adhere that down. There we go. And now we can bring in these little jewel rhinestones. Adhere that down. And then I just used a couple more for the inside of this little lacy flower. And depending on how you did your stamping, those could be in different spots. Oops. And if you wanted to, you could add some additional rhinestones to different parts of the flower, whatever works best for you. I tend to be a little more conservative with my bling. So here's the finished card for today. Thanks so much for joining me. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a video, and give me a big thumbs up if you liked it and want to see more. All of the products will be linked as soon as the catalog goes live on January 6th. So please feel free to check that out if you'd like to purchase anything that you saw today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.